Hey guys, so last time or the last video we ended right here talking about what is a Renaissance man or woman and how the Dwayne the Rock Johnson would be a good example because he can do so many different things. So what can he not do? So today's video is going to focus on uh, the one packet in your reading looks like this, the Renaissance or the Intro to Renaissance. Um, we're going to read through it, talk about the questions. But first, before we read it, I want to go through some of the vocab words at the bottom of the first page, just because there's some words that we don't know about and we haven't really talked about. So the first one is classical philosophers. You remember when talking about Greece, we talked about some of the philosophers, such as Plato, Aristotle, Socrates. Um, it was thinking about thinking about thinking. They were thinking about politics, nature, and human nature. Second word in here is papacy. It's a system of government where the Pope controls all politics. So it's a country ran by their religion. Third one is righteously, which is just living according to rules and ideas of religions. Next one is toil, so this is any sort of hard work. Uh, Usually it has to do with farming and land, kind of like the backbreaking labor. Next one is humanism, and this is just focusing on the brilliance of mankind and the ability of mankind. If you remember from previous videos, the Renaissance is all about bettering yourself, learning, really making sure that you have talents that you're improving. So we're going to go ahead and start reading this. Follow along in your packet if you want. So starting out, the Renaissance. So we have exciting changes started happening in Europe beginning in around the 1400s. People woke up to a world around them. Art, literature, and philosophy came alive with new ideas. This time period, which ended in about 1600s, so 400 years ago, is known as the Renaissance. Renaissance comes from the Latin word meaning rebirth. The Renaissance was a rebirth of learning in Europe after the Middle Ages. I put this one in a bubble because this is a really important sentence in this paragraph. The Renaissance was a rebirth after they had the terrible times in the Dark Ages with the plague and feudalism declining. This is kind of like the time to start again, start anew. Second paragraph. The Middle Ages began with the fall of the Roman Empire, which we knew. Throughout the Middle Ages, the thoughts of very wise classical philosophers, such as Plato and Aristotle, were lost and forgotten. The papacy, the Pope, controlled everything and wanted people to live righteously. They wanted people to think only about theology or the study of God. Noblemen had to follow the Catholic Church or they would be excommunicated or kicked out. So either you follow this religion, you do what you're told, or you're out of here. Peasants were too tired with their daily toil, working in the farms, to pursue any interests like art or writing. Neither people nor their ideas traveled very far because of constant warfare. People were not as curious about the world around them. This is why the Middle Ages is called the Dark Ages. No learning going on, there's no knowledge, there's no art, literature being made. It's kind of just like nothing is happening. During the Renaissance, all of this changed. If the Middle Ages were dark, the Renaissance was a bright dawn of a new era. Scholars and teachers began to rediscover the old thoughts of the classical philosophers from Greece and Rome. Instead of just accepting everything the leaders of the church said, people who wanted to experience and learn about the world for themselves. Ships began exploring different parts of the world. They brought back new goods to trade. Diffusion, things are spreading. Ideas. People started to explore new thinking too. They realized they didn't have to study their religion. They could enjoy many things here on earth too. They called their new philosophy humanism because it focuses on humans, not just God. So we're starting to focus on human, their talents, their strengths, their knowledge, kind of building what they know about the world. The Renaissance movement got its start in Italy in the early 1300s. More and more ships began arriving from foreign places to Italy's many port cities. With them came goods to trade and new ideas. Art, literature, thought, and government began to blossom. Cities started to form. A new middle class of merchants grew from all the foreign trade. These middle class people had money, time to explore art and literature. They were not stuck in the tradition of the church as the noblemen were, and they had freedom, more freedom than the peasants. Eventually, these changes would spread to the rest of Europe's mainland. But first, they arrived in Italy via the sea, so on the boat they came over. So I have 5 seconds left. Draw a picture, look at these questions, answer them multiple choice.